Australia is leading the world out of the global COVID-19 recession. That's what yesterday's national accounts confirmed once again. Growth of 3.1%. Over the course of the year, through the year, only down 1.1. Now, if I'd said that a year ago, the idea that the Australian economy would be down 1.1% through the year, that would have been absolutely devastating news. And indeed, the impact of that has certainly been felt here in Australia. That's why we've provided such unprecedented support. But when you compare the impact of the economic shock of COVID-19 across the world, and more importantly, how we're coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, then this is something that Australians have achieved in a remarkable way. As a federal government, as a Commonwealth government, we've been very pleased to play our role in that comeback. It's certainly on. And as we move through the gears again, as we gear up the economy and we get in to the next phase, it's an exciting time for Australia. Our economic recovery plan is not just about providing the immediate support as we have over these many difficult months. It's also about the rebuilding that is going on now and the building for the future, which is what you're seeing right here. In the Hunter, they're building the future on this site with lithium-ion batteries. When I think of all the regions of our country, it's very hard to consider a region that will benefit more from the economic policies we're putting in place than the Hunter. When I reflect on my last few visits here to the Hunter, firstly, the gas-fired recovery and how we need to address the energy needs of this important sector. Then to be here for the Joint Strike Fighters maintenance program occurring over in Williamtown, and the defence industry that is being built here and expanded here in the Hunter, and to be back here again today to launch the Resources Technology and Critical Minerals Processing plan pathway, the priority roadmap for our manufacturing strategy. Once again, we find here in the Hunter those investors, those partners, whether they're in the CSIRO, the University of Newcastle, coming together to make the reality of manufacturing here in Australia for the future, just not for the present. I've been here before looking at the skills development that is being done and the training that is occurring here under the programs we're putting in place, providing the workers for the places that we're standing on right now. As Mark was saying to us, when I asked him before, why here, Mark? He talked about the skills, he talked about the university, he talked about the CSIRO, he talked about the partnerships, he talked about the opportunities, and here they are in the Hunter. And that's tremendously exciting to see that our manufacturing strategy that we set out in last year's budget, some $1.3 billion specifically going into these partnership grants that are driven by these roadmaps developed up together with industry, will see critical areas like critical minerals processing, making the batteries that will power the world's economy into the future. And it's not a new issue for us. For some time now, our government has been working closely, whether it's been the United States or Japan or other parts of the world through our partnerships, about how we can fill in the supply chains around critical minerals and rare earths. It has been a keen topic of our national level discussions. It is a sovereign and strategic priority for Australia to ensure that we are hardwired into this supply chain around the world, and a supply chain that Australia and our partners can rely on, because these rare earths and critical minerals is what literally pulls together the technology that we will be relying on into the future. So preserving the industrial base that has been so successful here in the Hunter, but also giving it a future through these types of initiatives. I'm going to ask Karen Andrews to make a few comments on that strategy in a second, but there are a couple of other matters I'm sure you understand that I need to address. First of those is the AstraZeneca vaccine, as you know, has arrived in Australia. The Minister for Health announced that a few days ago. I can now tell you that the batch testing for the AstraZeneca vaccine that has arrived has been completed and it's being distributed to the states. And I understand that the first of those vaccines will be administered in South Australia tomorrow. That's welcome news. Now, the next phase of the receipt of those vaccines that we were able to secure from overseas, supporting the first phase of this rollout of the vaccine across the country. Let's not forget, though, that 50 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine will be made right here in Australia, in Melbourne. And we took the decision to have the sovereign capability to do that because we did not want to be, over the course of our vaccination program in Australia, overly reliant or dependent on supply chains from somewhere else. So we did it here. We built it here. And we are one of the few countries in the world that have that capability. And so while these initial doses of AstraZeneca that have come in from overseas have been approved by the Therapeutic Goods Administration and now batch tested, will be rolled out, and that commences from tomorrow, what will follow that is ultimately the approval of the manufacturing process here in Australia for the AstraZeneca vaccine, which will launch the next very significant phase of the homegrown vaccination of Australians for COVID-19.